Many years later, as he faced the firing squad, Colonel Aureliano Buendia was to remember that distant afternoon when his father took him to discover ice. That is the iconic first line of the book 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel García Márquez, and it is widely considered as a masterful opening line of a book for a variety of reasons. And it has been broken down and analysed for years, and people have tried to replicate it with a many years later ... template, but it never seems to work. The reason writers try to replicate the quality of this line by copying how it is written and failing is because they are learning the wrong things from this line. There are some incredible craft techniques with time and sentence structure that Márquez does here that really elevates the first line and makes it so effective, but trying to copy what he does isn't the right way to replicate the effectiveness of what he does. You have to understand the very simple ideas behind why he does what he does and what they do to a reader's mind. Then you can take the concepts and put them into your own openers and maybe one day write a line as iconic as this. I'm A.A. Watson, author of The Living Weapon. Let's get into why this first line works so well. It starts off with many years later as he faced the firing squad, and immediately we are questioning what is going on. Why is this man in front of a firing squad? That is such a strong hook for the first few words of the whole book. In the book, tension is not created by the actual danger, it is created by uncertainty. Here, Márquez immediately presents us with a character facing death, which is essentially the maximum amount of stakes you can have, but he withholds any information of how this character got there or pretty much anything else. And actually it's an interesting choice because we don't know this character yet or anything except he is facing the firing squad. Even though we are presented with the maximum amount of stakes for this character, him literally facing his death, we don't know him, so we are not emotionally invested. We don't really care if this character lives or dies more than we might just generally have empathy for a random fictional character. But that's not what hooks the reader immediately. What hooks the reader is the uncertainty about the situation. The reader is wondering about who this character is, what he has done to face the firing squad, what firing squad this is, just what is the situation. A bunch of active questions flare up in the reader's mind and it pulls them to want to continue reading. A reader can easily walk away from a story if there are no active questions, if there is nothing nagging at their mind that they need to be answered. But when you have a man facing a firing squad and you don't know why, that's tough. The reader gets locked in because they want to close the loop. Human beings are curious by nature, and Márquez immediately feeds off that to make the reader want to find out more. Colonel Aureliano Buendia was to remember. There is absolutely zero chronological build-up leading to this moment. We don't start with the colonel's birth or the founding of the town Macondo or anything. The very first line starts mid-action with him literally facing the firing squad, and then interestingly though, the main focus of the sentence is him remembering. By opening at the peak of a high-stakes dramatic scene, Márquez immediately creates momentum where the reader is having their attention forced forward, dragging them into the narrative before they can consciously decide whether they are interested or not. Then the reader is thrown into a memory. The character is remembering something, so they have gone straight from an execution to a memory, jumping around like a pinball within this world. It signals to the reader that this character has a real active life that exists beyond the page, and we have been thrown in to witness this moment briefly, and then are being directed to where the character wants to take us. That distant afternoon when his father took him to discover ice. Then we are hit with the genius end of the sentence, the implicit contradiction. The implicit contradiction is a statement that either suggests the opposite of what is actually being said, or, like in this case, suggests the opposite of what intuitively should be true. The human brain is biologically wired to notice when something is wrong or out of place. It's a survival mechanism. In our world, for many of us, ice is pretty ordinary. Not some amazing mystical thing, but the way it is framed here, that the colonel went with his father to discover ice, is framed as this legendary and memorable event. A reality is suggested where ice is rare and exotic. This is odd to us, it feels wrong, and we are questioning what is this world. And then what Márquez does wonderfully is he just lets it sit. This is talking a bit about the next few lines on the page, but he doesn't immediately explain about the ice and discovering it. He lets the mystery just stay a mystery for a while, trusting that the curiosity of the reader will compel them to keep turning pages to figure out what kind of world this is where ice is being discovered. You'll notice if you look at other people analyzing this line, they might talk about how different tenses are used in the sentence, how time is used, how it connects to the broader themes of the story, and yes, that's all done masterfully, but those things are like the icing on top of the cake. That's not what makes a great first line. Those things tend to come at the time while writing and with experience. It is my belief that they will come together later in the writing process, but what I want to give you in this video are the rules that you can follow with any opening line that will make it effective in doing its job. And that is getting the reader to continue reading. And it comes down to these three things: starting mid-action to create stakes, withholding the build-up so that it creates uncertainty, then putting in an implicit contradiction to confuse the reader with even more questions. If you like this breakdown, then why not check out the video on screen where I'm breaking down more writing and how we as writers can learn from it.